Hello, everyone. I hope you are all good and healthy.
Good day, Professor.
Hello, Professor.
Do you have any exams coming week? Any final exams that already announced for you? Or they
We
want
have
to
reports.
Okay, you have
Yes.
reports. Many reports. Many reports, huh?
Yes.
Yes, Professor. Too much.
Like I guess like from the old courses, instead of the exam, the professors they prefer to give the reports, some project based. I hope it will be over this type of education, and actually there's some advantages of it, but however, there are more pitfalls that we have it in it. And I wanted to ask you something because the students they all have always they have more information than the professors concerning the class start. When have you heard about that the summer school will start in offline basis, summer one?
Really? Oh, really?
Yes.
Really?
I don't know. I'm just asking you.
Well, there's a survey going on asking us what our preferences, whether we would like to go offline on some, but it's online, I think, yet.
I see. Okay. Then this is what I heard, but it's not officially, but they're planning, but they're trying to collect the info from the students. Maybe I thought that you have already informed about it, like whether you're preferring to online or offline. So which one you prefer more? So this type of question is raised among the students. I hope it will be sorted out, but what I think that the summer one, it will not be that much effective if we go offline, because most of you already traveled and they're starting from home, and some of you are already in Almaty. It will be a bit difficult to come over here just in 1 month. Anyway, whatever happens, let's stay for all of us in a healthy mood and in healthy condition. So today I'm planning to give you the last activity, activity 10, in order to just complete the 10 points that I have mentioned at the beginning of the semester for the activities. And before that, I would like to finish some empirical interpretation results that I already started, but I haven't finished it yet. So I will go over it and I will give you some time. You can complete it. But this activity 10 will be related to the methodology, data and methodology part, where you will just explain where you collected data and how you collected them, and what estimation have you conducted in order to run the regression analysis. Of course, you have to be adhered to some specific article in order to do this activity. Okay, talking about the table, the results that we got it from the regression analysis estimation of using the starter program in here, but you are free to use Excel, you're free to use the starter, so whatever you are convenient most. Anyway, in both cases, you will get the same result. So last time we were discussing like which variable is more reliable, and we said this is reliable. If you remember, we were trying to measure what determines the financial performance of the financial institution in these selected regions, okay? Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan, and Uzbekistan, okay? This region has got mainly some connection, like they're located in Central Asia and they're coming from the post-Soviet Union countries. And that's what the reason, like why these countries have been selected. And we measured the financial performance of these banks. The data was collected from the World Bank database, okay? And what we can see here, we said that these coefficients, they show the direction and the scale of the impact of the variables, like explanatory variables, which are capital adequacy, cost to income, liquidity management, and non-performing loans. So they show the impact, so the direction and the scale of the impact on the financial performance on the dependent variable. So what we realize here that capital adequacy is the only variable that affects the net interest margin. So it's only the variable, but the other ones, they don't exert any impact. They don't exert any impact. what we have estimated in here. However, in here we can see that most of the variables, they don't have any impact. So does it mean that if most of the variables, from the explanatory variables, from the independent variables, are not statistically significant, so the whole model will be insignificant? So this is the model that we're using. Can we say that the capital adequacy is the only factor that affecting, but the other ones they are not significantly validated? So which means we cannot actually state that the whole model will be unreliable. So it will be incorrect to say so. There's additional information that we need to refer actually in order to answer whether can we use the model as a reliable model in order to predict, in order to give some recommendation for the policy decision makers and some top management or the government regulators in order to improve the financial performance of the banks. And as we know that the financial performance of all financial institutions are highly correlated with economical growth. Actually, if financial institutions or financial performance of financial institutions are good enough, okay, if they're improved, basically they will have an impact in all industries. In all industries, there will be a direct impact in all industries. If financial performance of the financial institutions are going down, like we know that the financial institutions, they represent the financial market. And if something goes bad, all industries will be affected. Why do you think that the all industry kind of interrelated with the financial institution markets, with the financial market? Why they should be correlated? Like agriculture industry, technology industry, all industries. Or do you see
they get funding?
Yes. They get funding
from financial institutions.
That's very true. They get funding through the financial institution. They get funding through the financial market because they have to pay their suppliers. They have to pay their employees. They have to pay other stakeholders the money that they owe. And they do this financing through the financial institutions. They do this financing through the financial market. We know that any project that we have it's financed either through debt or equity. In both ways, if you finance through the debt or equity, in any case, you're interacting with the financial institution. So if something goes bad with the financial institutions, that will really impact any type of industry. Remember the global financial crisis? Even those who did not have a job, they were affected. All the companies, so every single company that operated in a specific country was impacted by the global financial crisis in 2007, 2009. So there's no such industry that has performed well. There's some industry who is making money on this. It's another story that we need to talk about it. But mainly the economy, if all industries are impacted by financial market or institutions, this performance of of any industries in the market directly impact the economic growth of the country. So that was the main reason. So if the government would like to improve the economic growth, they should look to the financial market. They should look to the financial market, how the financial market is related to economic growth. And there is a relation. There is a relationship between the financial performance of the market and with the economic growth. And there are many studies that have been conducted, and they have proven that financial performance affects economic growth positively. Okay, for certain years, and they give some policy implication to improve it. So in here we can see that only the capital adequacy is having an impact, but the other one doesn't have. But it doesn't necessarily mean that as a majority doesn't are not accepted as a reliable one, so the whole model cannot be considered as a reliable model. No, it doesn't work so. We need to refer to another information where we check the validity of the whole model, where the model is the best fitted. And this is the information can be derived from F statistics, okay? This is where we look at. Same, we compare, if you remember, we compared with 1% or 5%, or we compared with 10%. So same thing, if the probability value, is less than 1 or 5 or 10, it should be less than one of the level of significance. So this 1, 5, 10% are the levels of significance. If p-value is less than 1 or 5 or 10%, then we should say that the whole model is best fitted, even though most of the variables are not statistically significant. So we can prove it that and say some recommendation to the government regulators or the policy maker, decision makers, and to the top management decision makers. We can say that if you want to improve the financial performance of the institutions in these regions, you should pay attention to the capital adequacy. So improving the cost management, improving the liquidity, improving the non-performing loans, actually that will not work with the improvement of the financial performance. So they shouldn't spend any of the money, and they should not concentrate their strategies by improving this previously mentioned ratio that are not significant, okay? So they don't give any impact on the financial performance of the financial institution. Only what is matter is the capital adequacy in here. So they have to pay attention to the capital adequacy. This is the conclusion we may come up. So this is what we just actually underline. So now we can see here, we started with economical interpretation. We gave this interpretation that the next step, we tried to do the validity of each coefficient and validity of the whole model, which we did it as well. So basically, in hypothesis testing, there are two types of hypothesis testing: alternative and null hypothesis. Our aim is when you're trying to prove when you're trying to prove the validity of any coefficient, like which is reliable or not reliable, we are basically testing the hypothesis, like null hypothesis or alternative hypothesis. So in order to say that capital adequacy is a reliable model, okay, in order to say that capital adequacy is a reliable model, is a reliable coefficient, then we need to put our aim that we need to reject the null hypothesis. This is what it means. When you say that capital adequacy is a reliable coefficient, which means that null hypothesis is rejected. When we reject null hypothesis, we mean that the coefficient is statistically significant. So that works in order to prove the validity of any coefficient. So we reject the null hypothesis, which is H0, only if the p-value, these are the p-values, is less than 0.01, 0.05, or 0.10. So 1%, 5%, 10%. These are the levels of significance. You should reject at any of the level. If you do not reject at 1%, but you reject at 5%, then you stop here. You say that I reject the null hypothesis at 5%. So our coefficient is statistically significant. This is how it works. So it doesn't mean you have to test, you reject at all level significance in order to make your coefficient to be validated. No, you should reject at one of the level of significance. So basically, when we check for beta 0, the constant variable for significance, we write it in this way, like H hypothesis, H0 hypothesis, beta 0 equal to 0, which means that coefficient is not significant. beta 0 is not equal to 0, coefficient is significant. If you accept this H1 and reject the null hypothesis, you will say that beta 0 is significant, is reliable. Then we do the testing for beta 1. Then we do the testing for beta 2, beta 3, beta 4, and it goes so on. So beta 0 is equal 0. Coefficient is not, if we do not reject the null hypothesis, we will say that this is not reliable coefficient. So what it happens in here? We do not reject the null hypothesis because p-value, which is 0.75, which is more than all level of the significance, 1, 5, 10. It's more than all of them. So we can conclude that everything is constant. The profitability of the banks will not change in the above mentioned countries. So the beta 0 is not statistically significant. So because we accepted the null hypothesis. But as I said, our aim is to reject the null hypothesis. H0 is the null hypothesis, H1 is the alternative hypothesis. So we check for a beta 1. Beta 1 is capital adequacy, okay, coefficient. So we are looking for it. 0. So we can see that if this is the case, beta 1, we reject the null hypothesis because the p-value is 0, which is less than any of the level of significance. We can conclude that our coefficient is statistically significant. So basically, we reject it. By the way, in statistics and econometrics, we never say we accept the alternative hypothesis. H1 is the alternative hypothesis. This is our aim to accept it. However, in econometrics and statistics, we never say we accept alternative hypothesis because we are working only with the null hypothesis. If you do not reject the null hypothesis, that means you rejected the alternative one. If you reject the null hypothesis, like in beta 1 coefficient, we accepted the alternative one. So which we prove that, yes, Evgenia?
Professor, may I ask you the question? So in your table, you showed that the coefficient is 0, but
Yes.
here you rejected.
One more time. Here, not the coefficient is 0.44, but the p-value is 0.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
One more time. Our aim, Evgenia, is to reject the null hypothesis. By rejecting the null hypothesis, let me just type it. By rejecting H0 or null hypothesis, we assume that coefficient or beta 0 or beta 1 is statistically significant. So our aim is to reject the null hypothesis. When we reject the null hypothesis, that means that we accepted alternative. In alternative hypothesis, we say that beta is coefficient. The beta coefficient is significant. So in beta 0, as we can see that our coefficient is more than, our coefficient's p-value is more than all level of significance. So we do not reject it. But beta 1, it is less than 1%. We can conclude that our coefficient is statistically significant. So, but when it comes significant result, you should not stop in the interpretation in here. You should follow with further. Okay, it's significant, but you should show the sign of the direction of the impact. Capital adequacy positively affects the profitability of the banks. Good. So you have to give a clarification for it. What does it mean when capital adequacy is having an impact in a positive way? I clarified it as well-capitalized banks face a lower cost to financial distress, and eventually it leads to a more profit. And it is consistent with Agbeja findings. So this is a proper interpretation of your results. You reject the null hypothesis at what level? Then you conclude that your coefficient is significant, and then you show the direction of the impact. And then you clarify your relationship between capital adequacy and what you call the profitability. And you should compare with the previous finding, where it's a when you compare with the previous finding, you can say it is. I can make it in this way. For example, this clarification is I am getting from this Agbeja. However, I could write it in this way as well. I could make it dot here, and my findings or our findings are consistent with Agbeja. That's it. Or if it's not consistent, are opposite with Agbeja's finding. So it doesn't mean that Agbeja found it like positive and you might find it negative. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you should find the same or you have some mistake. No, you're a scholar, you're doing your job and you're trying to prove something else. So you found negative, but he found positive. So you said that you find it in opposite to his finding. And you don't, in this way, you cannot use his explanation of that relationship or something else. Is that clear? What I said here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is the proper interpretation of your result of one relation. And in my case, I didn't explain this because they do not have any impact. So you will explain only those that have a positive and given some clarification and comparison with the previous studies. And of course, then I go to beta 2, which is not significant. Beta 3, which is not significant. For example, we do not reject the null hypothesis p-value, which is more than all levels significant. We can conclude that everything is constant and profitability of bank, it will not change in above mentioned countries. If assumption, if the p-value was less than 1%, then we can say that we can conclude that beta 2 is significant, which means that beta 2 was what? Let me just check it. Cost to income. I did not write the proper interpretation here. Beta 2 is statistically significant and it has negative impact on financial performance of banks. So the lower the ratio for the more the operational efficiency the banks get through the reduction cost and increasing return. And it is consistent with the work Fayzulayev et al., which was published in 2018. So this is the if it was significant, but in this case it's not significant. Okay, I'm just giving you an assumption. What if it was the significance? So significance, showing the relationship and direction, giving the clarification and comparing with the previous findings. Beta 3, not significant. Beta 4, not significant. And we're coming to another variable which we need to explain, another factor which is called R square. Okay. R square showing in how much your dependent variable will be variated or changed if independent variable changes. So in here we can see that 56%. Okay, we explain it as a 56%. Basically, R square is showing that 56% changes in net interest margin can be explained by the changes in independent variables. Is that clear? What does R square showing you? R square shows by how much your net interest margin changes if some changes happens in independent variables. In like, as we can see that from our project, from our model, only the capital adequacy changing and is impacting. We can say that if any 56% changes in net interest margin is due to the changes that take the place in the capital adequacy strategies, and other comes from unknown factors like 46%. The higher the number, the better the model could be explained. But in here we can see that only the 56 and the 44% is coming from the error. E means here error term, okay? E means here error term. So which means that only 56% is explained by capital adequacy and 44% is explained by error. By error, we mean unknown factors, which may motivate you to conduct more research in order to find those factors that could really affect it. We know that the cost to income and liquidity and NPL, they do not have impact. However, there could be another factors that have an influence on net interest margin, and that might change the net interest margin by 44%. So it's a huge number. So there should be a motivation for us to do more research to find those variables which are unknown and having a really large impact. So 56% of variation in NIM can be explained by the variation in independent variables. And then we check the validity of the whole model. To hypothesize it, we need to write it down in this following way. Beta 0, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, beta 4, they're all equal to each other and equal to 0, which means that the whole model is not best fitted or validated. If you do not reject the null hypothesis, you will say, that's it. We cannot rely on this model. We should change the model and run the regression analysis from the beginning. But if you reject it, which means that you will accept the alternative, you will say that beta 0 is not equal 0, beta 1 is not equal 0, beta 2 is not equal 0, beta 3 is not equal 0, beta 4 is not equal 0. But look, here I equate them all, but in here you cannot write beta 0 is not equal to beta 1. Beta 1 is not equal to beta 2. Beta 2 is not equal to beta 3. So these are the mistakes that is conducted by some students when they hypothesize it. So the rightest way is to do that, because if the beta 0 is not equal to 0, it doesn't mean that the beta 0 is not equal to beta 1. It could be equal to the beta 1, the coefficient, but they are not equal to 0, which means that the whole model is best fitted or validated. The whole model is best fitted and validated.
Professor?
Yes, please.
If there is some of them fitted, for example, B0 equal to 0, while B1 is not equal to 0, what we should write?
This is what you were doing individually, one by one. Like we realized that all of the coefficients are not, like only the one coefficient is significant, which is beta 1 is not equal to 0, but beta 2, beta 3, beta 4, they're all equal to 0. We found this, but it doesn't mean that we reject the model. So in order to see the model is rejected or not, we check for F probability statistics here. If it is less than P, if the P value is less than 1 or 5 or 10%, then we say the model is best fitted, that the whole model is not equal to 0.
I get it, thank you.
Okay. This is what we do, okay? And we reject null hypothesis because the F probability value is less than all levels significant. We can conclude that the whole model is best fitted. And recommendation to top management or other policymakers, it's on your shoulders. You should give some recommendation. Okay, do you have any questions? Okay. So first of all, for empirical analysis, I want from you the following. Okay, we're coming to empirical analysis. For empirical, let me do it in this way, because I already started for article structure, article guideline. I will continue with it. It was guidelines for article. I think it was this here, because I started the literature and the methodology in here. What should be written, what should not be written. Okay, the abstract, introduction, data and methodology, literature review here, and so on. And we have, let's say, the last part that we have is empirical results that you need to give interpretation. So refer to what? First step in regression analysis. Refer to first step in regression file that I work now. Second, in here, what you need to do first of all, provide the descriptive statistics, like the average, mean, the mean, median, and so on. You know it all, how to do it in Excel, and if you already use Stata, you know how to do it in Stata. It's very easy in Stata, and it's very easy in Excel to find this. Then show the correlation. Actually, we don't need the correlation. That's something we don't need, because we're already running the regression analysis. Automatically, we are getting the relationship between the variables. So there is no need. And give the regression results, okay? Regression analysis. So two things I wanted to discuss, to be discussed in here. That's it. When you discuss this regression analysis, it is important to take into consideration, put the hypothesis, so when you discuss the regression analysis, you need to, first of all, put hypothesis, then compare, then check for validity each coefficient, check the validity the whole model. And the another one which is important as well is apart from the R square and everything, you need to clarify relationship and compare with previous studies. This is important. Okay. Okay, what else I can tell? Now, do you have any questions regarding the empirical result that you need to do? Any questions related to the file that I worked just now? Okay, it seems there is no question. Then I'm going to upload it. Let me just save it, and I will upload this again into Moodle. If you don't have any questions, let me take the attendance quickly then. And for next class, I want you to write the methodology part, data and methodology part, and upload it to the Moodle before we meet as an activity 10. Aidana is here?
Yes.
Okay, great. Lee?
I'm here.
Evgenia, she was here, I think, yes.
I'm
Alnur?
Here.
Almat?
Here.
Arina?
Here.
Saken?
I'm here.
Anwar?
I'm here.
Dinara?
I'm here.
Dana?
I'm here.
Temirlan?
I'm here.
Okay. Jean?
I'm here, Professor.
Okay, great. Everybody's here. Now, first of all, I will create activity 10. What you need to do in activity 10 is just very simple. You need to just write the data methodology part. Activity 10. Please write data and methodology part. That's it. And that in this way we'll finalize our activity part where you will get. So the deadline I'm giving you today is 12th of April, and which is 14th of April. So I want to just finish with you the report. I want to make you to spend less time in your free time. So, and by writing it like it's an activity. So once you finish the activity, then what it will be left only the empirical results. That's it. And then you will just combine all the parts together, and here we go. Your article is ready. You can make it online text, file submission, any types. Okay. And the deadline before we meet in the class is 14th of April. Okay, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If not, I will let you go earlier today. Yes, please.
Can I ask, what is the deadline of the full report?
The deadline full of report I said is 24th of April, or did I think I said like
You
next
said
week.
25th.
24th of April including.
Yeah.
So before 25th when we meet, sorry, that Sunday, yeah, Sunday, 25th is including. 25th. On 25th, you should finish everything and submit it. So this week we will finish the article, empirical results and everything.
That means that after 25th we don't have classes?
Yeah, there will be just one. Yeah, after 25th, we'll not have anything. Just once you submit, that is over.
Okay,
Можно
thank you.
спросить про regression analysis?
Да.
Вот у меня есть 5 банков, и я по ним по каждому собрала в течение нескольких лет ratios.
Угу.
Вот, как мне сделать?
Сколько лет?
Сейчас скажу. Самая большая, ну, точнее, дольше всего по годам, до 83-го года. Ну, некоторые банки просто не были в это время.
Возьмите именно общую, так, возьмите общую дату, примерно 10 лет возьмите или 15 лет.
Мгм. Ну вот, и у меня на каждый банк с 83-го года есть данные.
Угу.
Я их все выделяю, прям для всех, да, банков,
Угу.
для regression. Или для каждого банка отдельно?
Теперь, нет. Всех нужно выбрать как один банк, как одна страна. Вы какую страну делаете?
США.
США, вот. Теперь, сейчас, минутку. Я, по-моему, вам показывал how to organize the data. Did I show you? I don't remember. I'm just trying to find it.
Да, вы показывали.
Вот. Так, а где он у меня? Тогда здесь. Так. Nature of Econometrics and Data.
Да, где-то это 7-я лекция, как я помню.
Мгм.
В начале было.
Да, это вот 7-я лекция была, по-моему. Сейчас посмотрю еще раз. No, it's not. Даже Excel файл. Странно, почему не сохранился. Минутку. It's interest rate risk. Data not. Example response. Example no. And maybe in here. The search file sample. Maybe this one. So somewhere here, organization of the data. Yes, this is how you should organize your banks. Like Alik, Kaspi, and so on. So in this way, all the banks should be as like one bank. And when you do the regression analysis,
Профессор,
yes, please.
необходимо именно собрать данные именно в таком порядке, да? То есть
Да, все данные нужно привести в этот порядок, чтобы сделать регрессионный анализ. У нас же как бы...
Нельзя, да, вот так, например, в один ряд сначала все данные по Халыку, все данные по
Да,
Каспи.
поставьте, а потом как бы сформируйте. Главное, вот этот идентификационный номер должен быть. Самое главное.
Различный. У каждого банка свой номер, верно?
Да, верно, верно.
Понял, спасибо.
Если, допустим, один банк, вот, допустим, если будет идентификационный номер вот так, в таком случае, если вы только все по одному, сфера Халык, потом Каспий, потом Сбер, сейчас, минутку, как это? Here we go. То есть в этом порядке вы можете все поставить, по годам, допустим, разбить 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, то есть для Халыка, потом только Каспий. Но идентификационный номер каждому банку должен быть индивидуален, то есть Халык это 1, Каспий 2, а потом чисто по идентификационному номеру упорядочить, то есть нужно сделать так. By years.
То есть это для удобства.
Да. То есть здесь разницы нету. Самое главное, чтобы был идентификационный номер, вы можете именно в этом порядке поставить. В принципе, от места расположения, то, что это все меняется, результат не поменяется. То есть идентификационный номер 1 для Халыка, 2 для этого, 3 для этого. Ну, потом, после того, как вы собрали все банки в одну, сперва вы, допустим, Халыком работали, и главное, потом по годам его разбить нужно будет. То есть 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19 года. Вот Халык. Потом обратно, как бы, порядок идет именно от 1 до 5, от 1 до 4, или сколько у вас там банков. То есть окончательный результат у вас должен быть вот так. Сейчас покажу. То есть 1, 2, 3, 4.
А какие мы variables выбираем для regression analysis, как dependent и independent?
Interest margin это же как раз таки dependent.
Да. То есть и плюс NPL. По поводу sample, то, что variables, которые выбирали, это все здесь. Это мы уже оговаривали.
Для компаний, которые не банковские, там же мы выбирали вместо NPL, ROA, ROE.
Да, да, верно. Мы уже это обсуждали, верно. Вы можете выбрать как liquidity ratio, можете выбрать как credit risk, non-performing loans or bad loans of the bank, net interest margin. Допустим, вместо net interest margin вы можете выбрать profitability, ROE, ROA.
Извините, у меня вопрос по Excel-моделю. Мы должны расставить вот таблицу по убыванию, да, по годам, или по возрастанию?
Сейчас еще раз открою минутку. Там 2015 это одни года идут. Нам нужно по
Не, вот, допустим, 2015 сначала, да, потом 16, 17, 18, 19, да? А не, наоборот.
Нет, 2015, 15, 15, потом 2016, 16, 16 идут они. Сейчас покажу еще раз. Они вот так, здесь они вот так выставились.
Да-да, я вот этот момент хотел уточнить.
В принципе, здесь результат не поменяется. Результат не поменяется. Сейчас, минутку. Нет, результат вообще не должен поменяться, потому что когда идет panel data, в принципе, регрессионный анализ, он идет по годам. И по убыванию или по уменьшению, то есть это не, или по увеличению, это ничего, никакого эффекта не окажет на результат вашей таблицы. The most important part should be like for each bank, it should have identification number, like ID number.
Okay,
А
thank you.
потом, после того, как сделаем regression analysis, мы должны такое же уравнение, как вы сегодня показывали, с бетами, да, сделать?
Да, все верно.
Мгм.
И потом интерпретировать результаты.
Мгм. А то, что вы показывали вон ту OLS модель,
Какую модель?
OLS, что-то там square.
Да, OLS, Ordinary Least Square. Это все и есть то,
Мгм.
что мы делаем, это и есть OLS.
Ага. А у вас еще вот это уравнение было между странами, вы сравнивали, а у нас только внутри одной страны просто получится и
Ну
все.
да, у вас, допустим, банки, а у меня страны.
А,
Допустим, в принципе, смысл один и тот же. То есть я взял, допустим, 4 страны, то есть 4 переменных у меня было, а у вас 4 банка, тоже 4 переменных. То
мгм.
есть для Excel и для стата, для вычисления регрессионного анализа они не видят имена, они видят только числа 1, 2, 3, 4, то есть идентификационные номера.
Хорошо, понятно, спасибо. А можно спросить
Да.
еще по интерншипу?
Сейчас, минутку, интерншип на потом. Сейчас, если есть вопросы по уроку этому, то без проблем. Можно будет на интерншип. Any questions regarding this class?
No questions.
No,
Okay.
thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you too. See you on Wednesday then.
See you.
Вы можете спросить по интерншипу. Bye. Take
Да,
care.
вот то, что нам нужно до 24 числа сдать, там должен быть full report, то есть первая и вторая часть, да, нужно их совместить.
Да, все как бы, все нужно объединить. Там journal, employer recommendations. Сейчас я покажу.
И у нас, в общем, не дают recommendation, как от компании, только менеджер сам от себя может ее
Вот
дать.
этот вот от менеджера.
Ага.
Именно вот BCB Employer Evaluation Form. То есть это все нужно будет сделать в один файл. Мне нужна электронная версия. Теперь другой вопрос. Что требует университет? То есть университету, возможно, нужно будет hard-copy. То есть уточните этот вопрос. Можно ли электронную сдать, либо Афина может сказать, типа, I need only the hard copies. So you have to ask her in which way you have to submit it. Maybe she will say that if you submit everything to professor, that will be more than enough. Just ask her whether the university needs anything. For me, I need everything electronically. So you submit everything as one file, like zip them and submit.
Понятно. Если я пишу в рамках интерншипа только свой один проект, то есть для первого интерншипа нужно же 80 часов, да, работать?
Да, да.
Но я же, по сути, все время работаю. Я могу только про один проект написать и все.
Конечно, конечно, конечно.
Спасибо.
Вы же проектно же работаете, я как понял.
Ну, просто работа организована как проектами. Просто
Ну да,
так
я имею в виду, да, у вас по-другому у вас никак нельзя написать, вы каждый день не приходите на работу, у вас это как все онлайн.
Да.
Можете про один проект написать все, то, что вы каждый день эти все 80 часов вы занимаетесь этим проектом.
Понятно.
Профессор, можно вопрос касательно Islamic Banking курса?
Да, конечно.
В этом семестре, я так понимаю, его не было, да?
Курса этого нет, будет с сентября.
Сентября. На Саммере тоже не будет, верно?
На Саммере не будет.
В сентябре
Вы
будет.
заканчиваете, да, Тимирлан?
Да, я на фоле заканчиваю. Не на Summer, на Fall
Ah,
заканчиваю.
fall semester. Okay, you have a chance to get it.
Да.
This
Получается, за 3,5, да. Не получилось за 3 закончить.
Ясно, ясно. Ну, у вас как бы шанс есть еще получить этот курс как бы взять.
Ну, он мне будет ходить как, получается, как он required курс мне будет для, я, получается, учился сначала Corporate Finance and Investments, ну, там есть подразделение на риск, тоже риск менеджмент и еще что-то там, в общем, по финансам. Там на 2 отрасли делится, и он мне будет уже как required. Islamic Banking, Risk Management, 2 курса необходимо закрыть, они как раз 2 курса у вас, и потом additional какой-то finance, любой курс. Поэтому я вот переживаю за счет Islamic Banking.
Все понял.
Спасибо большое.
Да, конечно.
Все, спасибо.
Всего доброго. Всего доброго.